Let the church say amen. If you love the Lord, say amen again. Amen. If you are a recipient of the bountiful blessings of God, say amen again. Amen. We serve an awesome God today. We serve an awesome God today. I'm fishing for a witness. We serve an awesome God today. The God of earth, wind, and fire. Not the song group, but the elements. We serve a God who causes the lightning to flash. We serve a God who causes the thunder to roll. We serve a God who brings the rainbow after the rain. We serve a God who put water in Niagara Falls. We serve the God who put the lean in the Tower of Pisa. We serve the God who carved out the Grand Canyon and put snow on top of Mount Everest. We serve a God who taught birds to fly and never went by pilot school, and fish to swim and they never went by the YMCA. He's an awesome God today. If you judge him by his height, you'll find there's none his size. If you put him in a grave, he'll surely rise. He walks on the water and don't get wet. He went through the fire and didn't even sweat. He's an awesome God today. And if your God ain't working for you, you ought to try my God. He fed the thousands who did not have bread. He brought people back from the dead, drove out demons from the demon bound, and taught us how to walk on holy ground. Made the leper's skin like new. Storms dissipated when he told it to. Took jars of water, turned it into wine, even saved this soul of mine. He's a good God. He's a good God. This month you've been dealing with love, and I'm doing my best to stay congruent and concomitant and homogeneous and homogeneous with that theme. One noted writer said that a bell is not a bell until you ring it. A song is not a song until you sing it. Love that is in your heart was not put there to stay, because love is not love until you give it away. And so today I want to build a sermonic castle around a sermonic soliloquy that I entitled A Ridiculous Kind of Love. A ridiculous kind of love. So that we may have some biblical base from whence to preach. Allow me to summon your senses and invite your intellect to the gospel according to Matthew chapter 5. And our rendezvous point will be verse number 43. Amen. Matthew chapter 5, verse number 43. The gospel according to Matthew chapter 5. Take your seat. Interesting it is to me how Matthew, the 40th writer in the Bible, falls after the book of Malachi. You might recall that between Malachi and Matthew, there's 400 years of silence in which God said nothing. God did not speak. God did not have a prophet. God did not render any writings. God did not say anything to man for 400 years. But up comes this synoptic gospel writer by the name of Matthew. He is the son of Alphaeus. He's duplicitously known as Levi in the scriptures. What's notable about Matthew, and it accents how our God really is. It does a heart good to know that God can use anybody. Matthew was Bellfort, a tax collector. No, he wasn't just a tax collector. He was a publican. And a publican is worse than just a regular tax collector. It's interesting to me how God uses people that we despise for his glory. When Jesus was looking for 12 cabinet members, 12 consultants, 12 confidants that he would put into a 3.5-year apprenticeship from discipleship to apostleship. He went down to the lake of Gennesaret, there at the Sea of Galilee, the Sea of Tiberias, the same body of water that had 3 distinctive names. And he found Andrew and his brother Peter, James and his brother John, the fishermen. No doubt James and John were part of the fishing firm Zebedee and Sons Incorporated. You remember that Jesus told those men to drop your nets. Stop fishing for mullet and mackerel, because I'm going to make you a fisher of men. Well, on his way back to Jerusalem, he stopped by the local IRS tax office, saw Matthew filling out taxes for Nero and Caesar, and called Matthew into the ministry, and immediately he stopped filing taxes for Rome and started filing rapid refund for Jesus Christ. Well, where I'm from, folks say amen every now and then. So help a brother out. Say amen whenever you can. He said, you heard in times past. You heard in the Old Testament. You heard in the law. You heard in the Torah. You heard in the Pentateuch. You heard in the Talmud. You heard in times past that you ought to love your neighbors and hate your enemies. But Jesus said to the New Testament church, you ought to love your enemies and pray for your enemies and those who despitefully use you. I don't know about y'all, but that's a ridiculous kind of love. That's a nonsensical, incredible, bizarre, absurd, impossible, outlandish, outrageous, unbelievable, ridiculous kind of love. You do know love is the most misused and abused word in the human lexicon. People today use it so frequently and cavalierly that we do not consider the power and the significance of this 4-letter word, love. This word carries power and prestige in the mind and in the hand of God. I remember growing up in Tallahassee, Florida in the late 60s, and there were bumper stickers on all the cars saying, make love and not war. The implication was that love has the ability to stop war. Contemporary with that time, Martin Luther King lived, and he built his civil rights movement on the fact that we ought to love our enemies. When this is Black History Month, you know that, and in Birmingham, Bull Connor sicked the dogs on little black children. They bombed the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham. We were attacked on the walk from Selma to Montgomery. Many of our forefathers were thrown in jail unjustly and without due process and jurisprudence being exercised. Martin Luther King, who was a disciple really of Mahatma Gandhi, who read the writings of David Thoreau, they both came up with this passive, non-aggressive, love your enemies. And folks, it's hard to love people who sicken dogs on you. As a matter of fact, Malcolm X and all those militant dudes of the day like H. Rap Brown and Stokely Carmichael, they came from the other side. They said, we don't love our enemies, we kill our enemies before they kill us. But Malcolm was wrong and Martin was right on this. God says to the Christian that we have an obligation, a mandate, a command to love our very enemies. God said, love your enemies because God loved his enemies. John 3:16, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. I know y'all want me to talk about the kind of love you had last night when you played footsies under the table at a fancy restaurant while you were serenaded by Luther Vandross. I know the kind of love you talking about, that kind of boogie-woogie, get down with it kind of love. But that ain't the kind of love you want me to talk about. I found love on a two-way street, but I lost it on a lonely highway. You want me to talk about it's a thin line between love and hate. You want me to talk about if loving you is wrong. I thought y'all knew what I'm talking about. If being right means being without you, I'd rather do a... Say amen when you can. But that ain't the kind of love I'm talking about. A ridiculous kind of love that rises above man love. This is when you got a ridiculous love and you can love even your enemies. Romans 5:8, God demonstrated his love toward us in the fact that while we were yet sinners, the Bible said Christ died for us. If God can love his enemies, when we were enmity against him, then we ought to love our enemies. Well, Bellfort, y'all need to help me here. I won't be long if you help me. What is love? Some of y'all got a twisted, demented, distorted view of love. What is love? One astute writer said love is a feeling, a strong personal attachment induced by a sympathetic understanding with regard to tender affection. Another writer who was a little bit less astute said, love is an itch in the heart that cannot be scratched. And then they asked Pookie and Ray Ray what love is. They were more cynical. They said love is simply a misunderstanding between two fools. So I came by to tell you today, none of that is really godly love. When you just seek to define love, we must include and conclude that God is love. God is the author and the origin of love. Before you can really experience true love in life, you must come to the knowledge of God, because God is love. You will never ever reach the length, the breadth, and the width of love until you know God, because God is love. If you're looking for a husband, find a man who knows and loves God. Because if he don't know and love God, he can't love you properly. Not because he don't want to, not because he does not try, but if you don't know God, you have yet to meet what love is all about. If you're looking for a wife, find a woman that knows God. I didn't say find a man that goes to church. There's a difference between loving God and going to church. There's a lot of folk that go to church, don't know nothing about the Lord. The devil goes to church. The devil got a Bible. The devil can sing. The devil can even preach. I've said find a man that knows and loves God. Find somebody. Oh, you looking for somebody who's educated. That's fine. You're looking for somebody who's sophisticated. That's fine. You're looking for somebody who sachets and parlays all over Houston. That's fine. You're looking for a tall, sexy, dark man. That's fine. You're looking for a man that's well-traveled, well-versed, well-read. That's fine. You're looking for a man that's got some stuff. That's fine. But let me tell you, I don't care how much stuff you got. If you don't know God, you have nothing. Because ching, ching, and bling, bling don't mean a thing if you don't know the King. I'd rather have a garbage bag in heaven than a Gucci bag in hell. I came by to tell you today, you need to know the love of God.